Hey guys, Levi from the Roundtable of Wraith here. Just wanted to make a quick video about the recent MinMax ProQuest we had here in the Chicagoland area. It was a 64 person event. I think that's the biggest ProQuest we've had in the area so far. Nothing else has been like above 40. It's a huge shout out to MinMax for hosting. They did a really good job. But yeah, we're here to talk about my report from the tournament and how everything went for me. Spoilers here. We got some fancy new spring tunic sleeves, won by Azalea, put on the Azalea deck. So yeah, I'll go ahead and dive into the deck really quick, and then I'll go over a tournament report after. So it's pretty similar to most of the lists I've been playing for a while. If you haven't seen, I've done some pretty in-depth stuff on the channel, but I'll go ahead and note any kind of notable changes or exceptions to what I used to do. So, standard, I'm going to be playing Death Dealer, always playing Death Dealer, until someone proves me wrong. I don't think any other bow is even close to Death Dealer right now. Cross Wrap is too important, you can't really change it. Tunic is very good and we don't have a better option. I only run Bullseye Bracers. I know some people like Bracers of Belief as well. But because I run Bolton Shot, I found that Bullseye Bracers are the only ones I ever want to run. And then Perch Grapplers, Snapdragon Scalers, just depending on the matchup. Some matchups where you need to be able to take some tempo, or they don't have relevant on-hits, you're running the snaps. Otherwise, Perch Grapplers, super good for the block, and once in a while, you get to use the text on it. Super slim on the equipment. I make sure to stay slim on equipment to leave the maximum amount of cards in the main board, because there are a couple matchups where we're super concerned about fatigue, and I want to be able to shuffle everything together. If I bring too much equipment, I'm getting less cards in those matchups. Alright, that's that. Now we'll dive into the deck. I don't traditionally list cards specifically as sideboard cards. Everything's in the deck, and then certain cards come out depending on the matchup. I did put together a sideboard guide. I posted it in the Azalea channel in the Discord. I'm trying to think what the best way to put that in here is. Can't think of a great way. I might just have to make another video in the future about how I've been sideboarding with Azalea. Without further ado, let's dive into the deck. Starting with the arrows through Red in the Ledger. That's all I need to say. If I didn't want to play Red in the Ledger, I wouldn't be playing Azalea. 3 Remorseless, 3 red fatigues, and I was on 2 yellow fatigues. So interestingly, I think this should be at 3 in most metas. However, the day before the MinMax ProQuest, we had another ProQuest, and it was a 29 person event, and we had zero Starvo players. So in my area, people are just not playing Starvo. There's obviously a few, and actually if you were paying attention to the coverage of the event, you'll see that Starvo did actually end up winning the MinMax ProQuest. And on that note, if you want to watch any of the content from that, Hometown TCG streamed the event. So if you want to go over to his channel, or their channel, Hometown TCG channel, they've got the whole VOD of the event. And I actually show up on stream on round 1 and first round of top 8. But like I said, very few Starvos at the event. I think it was only like 4 or 5. So that was kind of a meta call going into it, that fatigue shot, the best matchup is to use it in is Starvo, and there wasn't many of them. I was expecting a lot of Chain and a lot of Briar, and fatigue shot just isn't quite as good into those as needed. So when I got down to needing 1 extra slot, fatigue shot yellow was the card that got cut. Continuing with the arrows, triple sleep dart red, triple sleep dart yellow. Like I said, I was anticipating a ton of Chain, and as a result, this is one of the best arrows into Chain. It just has to be run at the full 6. You can't really get away with running blues. They just it's too easy to block. I tossed in 2 salvage shots at the last minute, as we also saw a handful of Oldhams, so I was a little bit afraid of that matchup. I don't actually know if this is good enough to make you able to win the Oldham matchup, but I went ahead and tossed him in anyways, just kind of as a last-ditch effort. Actually, last-ditch effort is a card I could play. But, yeah. The on-hit is really only relevant in the Oldham matchup and maybe the Bravo Showstopper matchup. I don't know. It was just kind of an extra slot, and it was weird because I don't like running 1-ups, so I ended up doing 2 and 2 instead of like 1 salvage shot and 3 yellow fatigues. And then continuing with the arrows, we've got triple Bolton shot. This card is really, really good with Rain Razors. It's probably the single best arrow to Arsenal because you get to play a buff, give it go again, and then move into the rest of the turn. You get to play it by itself, and you threaten to Rain Razors. If you do have the Rain Razors with it, you get to hit, you reload, you come in with the next arrow with the buff. It just leads to a lot of really strong lines. It's definitely been my favorite recent inclusion. I obviously didn't used to run it, but since the release of Rain Razors, it's definitely found its place and proved its worth. Then we've got 3 battering bolts. It's mainly for the Prism matchup and the Fatigue matchups. It also is interesting that it's surprisingly good into Dorinthia. Granted, that matchup doesn't show up much, so you don't really take that into consideration. And then Blue Ridge Rider shots. It's the best blue arrow to load because it's an arrow that you can load and hopefully not fire because of the opt. And then otherwise, you just need a couple more blues in the deck. And it's a 3-block, and at worst case scenario, it's an arrow. So it kind of just checks all the boxes. Not well, but it checks all the boxes. And so it kind of fits in quite well. I used to run these in yellow, as most of the time you don't actually need 3 resources, but with Battering Bolt coming out, as well as the prevalence of like Ice Lexi and Oldham, the blue pitch does actually become relevant at times. And you don't fire very often, so the attack doesn't actually matter too often. Alright. Oh no. My camera's lagging really bad. Come on. It was recent enough. Let me see if I can fix this without resetting. Come on. Easy. Alright. That's staying in. Enjoy. For anyone who's played against me on webcam games, they will know that my camera likes to do that from time to time, and I can't always fix it. Or rather, I can't always prevent it. It's an easy fix, just not an easy prevention sometimes. Moving on to the buffs, we got a lot of them. Obviously, we don't go wide, we need to go tall, so we're going to have a lot of buffs in the list. From Tales of Aria, Seek and Destroy has been really, really good. This is actually one of my more fun lines to do, is you come in with like a Seek and Destroy Bolton shot, and it's like it's 7, they don't want to stop it, right? But then you get to follow up with something that makes them block, and all of a sudden they're going, wait, I wanted to block an Arsenal, but I don't get to Arsenal anymore. So Seek and Destroy is just really strong, and also even just tacking it onto an 8 dominated red in the ledger, it's like they're going to lose their hand, they're not getting the 5 card setup. Like, Seek and Destroy is just really, really good. Tried and True, Take Aim. Reload isn't always relevant, but when it is, it's really good. Release the Tension. It's mainly a sideboard option, but anything with heavy defense reactions or that you feel you need to be the aggressor in, these just kind of build your own, what's it called? Build your own Remorseless. What's the card? Then we got Read the Glide Path Red, Read the Glide Path Yellow. This card's really, really good. Opting is obviously very strong in the deck. And this is the arrow that I chose to go up to 6 of, or the buff that I chose to go to 6 of. However, notably, it's particularly good on second cycle when you need to find dominates, against anything that could fatigue you. So into aggressive matchups that are never actually making it to second cycle, these are often getting boarded out because it's just a 2-block. And then Rain Razors, another card out of Everfest. You'll see a lot. These are all Everfest. Rain Razors is just a card that I guess as a +2 isn't crazy, but the fact that your opponent has to respect it, the potential with Bolton Shot, just makes it kind of just an auto include. Yeah. So that's it for the buffs. Generic attacks, Enlightened Strikes, Command and Conquers. E-Strike is really, really good. The fact that Azalea uses E-Strike really well on the draw card on small hands because we're able to arsenal pretty much anything, as opposed to a lot of decks who they're afraid of drawing something like unplayable out of Arsenal. Because of Azalea's hero ability, arsenaling a blind card isn't actually that bad in this deck. So just being able to have 2 cards in hand and just E-Strike 5 draw a card, and then arsenal the blind card, essentially makes E-Strike a 0 for 5. So when you get the opportunity to block and set up that 2-card thing, just coming in with a 0 for 5 is really good. And then obviously on bigger hands, you get to use it for Go Again, just to dump cards, which is not quite as good, but it works. And then very clunky hands, occasionally you come in for the 0 for 7. But overall, very versatile card, and it's also a 3-block, so always relevant. And then Command and Conquer, because it's Command and Conquer. I have a love-hate relationship with the card in the deck. It needs to be there for Prism. There's some matchups where it's really good, and sometimes this card feels amazing when you play it, and then other times it feels garbage in the hand because you draw reds, and you can't play it, and it doesn't pitch well, and you wish it was literally anything else, but it is what it is. I think you can play the deck without Command and Conquer. Of like all the expensive cards in the deck, it's probably the most replaceable, in my opinion. On to the next category, which is kind of like, I call them do-nothing cards. Obviously, they do more than nothing, but Memorial Ground is another love-hate. It does nothing, or it doesn't generate any value inherently. However, it's a yellow for pitching, but the two, I guess I should specify, it's yellow Memorials. I don't think any other color is worth running. Blues don't target anything relevant, and then reds don't pitch. But it does fix some clunky hands. It sets up Dominate when you absolutely need it to close out games. Into like fatigue matchups, this is essentially an extra arrow in the deck that has Dominate. Slightly less than that, just because it's got to be this plus another card. But as far as overall value in the deck, that's how that works out. So it's super good there. But it also is a no block, not arrow, not buff. It has its place, but this is getting lower and lower in the list of the 80. This is probably moving to like 70th card. Maybe not quite that low, but it's getting down there. It used to be better, but we've gotten so many good cards that it feels less and less impactful. And then Knock the Death Whistle, obviously 3 of. Similar category to Memorial Ground, honestly. It does nothing. However, because of the reload keyword on it, it actually becomes stronger in clunky hands than Memorial Ground. It also pitches 3, and it blocks 3. So Knock is just kind of better than Memorial in every way except for fatigue matchups, because Knock doesn't actually generate value. And then I have a 1 of Remembrance. This is primarily for the fatigue matchups again, and that is going to be targeting 3 red buffs most of the time. Namely, Seek and Destroy, Read the Glide Path, and Increase the Tension, depending on the matchup and how it's going. Seek and Destroy is really relevant into Oldhim, because it turns off Crown. If obviously you hit the next turn, they have no Crown, and so it translates to a little bit more damage than the others. Read the Glide Path can find Dominate basically for free, and then the increase the tension would probably be more into other fatigue decks that are probably looking to sit on defense reactions in Arsenal. And then onto the defensive package, which is a lot of cards. Triple Sigil. This card's insane. Don't cut it. Play it in every matchup. One of my favorite things I've been doing, or just been noticing recently when playing this card, is like you attack with an arrow, and you're sitting with like a defense reaction and a sigil in hand, and your opponent's going, oh, he's got 2 cards in hand, he's going to Rain Razors me. And so it's a red in the ledger for 5, no dominate. They'll just block 7 because they're afraid of the Rain Razors. And they're like, oh, if it's not the Rain Razors, then they don't Arsenal, or they only Arsenal 1 and have to keep a card in hand. And then you just play a sigil, and they've overblocked by 2, you got to heal 3. And then you move on with your day. Just holding it in your hand and bluffing it, making it look like a Rain Razors, really good for the mind games. Also, obviously, arsenaling it is huge because then you get to flipped opt and play. Having it opted off the top is really huge because then you get to Azalea, play it out immediately, and then that clears the arsenal, so then you get to Death Dealer. Having it in arsenal is really good against CNC because then you get to play it and you don't have to worry about blocking the CNC fully. Like, this card's so good. The only problem is when it's in hand and your opponent comes in with like an on hit and you can't block with it. But I found that to be less relevant than all the other usages. It's also obviously really good into things with Arcane because we don't have blues. This becomes essentially block 3. It also does really well into Thorn because you can block Thorn more effectively. 1 card stops 3 of the damage. I could go on. Actually, could I go on? There's probably more, but that's most of it off the top of my head. Either way, card's insane. And then on to the defense reactions. We got triple take cover, triple fate foreseen, triple sink below, triple springboard. Springboard is a more recent inclusion. That's off the suggestion of Dran. I've been playing them and like, they don't feel insane, but they feel good. And I guess good is just good enough in the deck. Yellow pitch is big. One of the struggles we have with defense reactions is when we're on the front foot and you draw a defense reaction, it's a red pitch. This being yellow is really big for that. Secondly, obviously, is the fact that it can be a 0 for 4 from Arsenal. It's always good. And then I guess finally is it doesn't always need to block 4 to be good. Being able to just use it at the defense reaction step is big. So against certain decks where you need to stop those breakpoints, or you're afraid of like reactions, like testing against a Katsu, you know, they come in for like 4 with a whelming, and you know, you block 4 and they go breaking scales, and then you just get to respond with springboard. It doesn't need to block 4 to be huge, very impactful. Just being able to be played in the defense reaction is strong. So overall, super good, and it helps me up the yellow count. As for these, I know everyone, I guess I'll just throw out my opinion on these defense reactions. People like to think Fate Foreseen, because Azalea likes opt, Fate Foreseen being the best. I think Sink Below is the best one in the deck. It's probably Sink, then Fate, then Take Cover. Reload's underwhelming most of the time. There are matchups where it's relevant, things that are coming in with Dominate, and you get to load second defense reaction. But most of the time, Sink being able to fix hand is more important than Fate Foreseen, because we aren't looking to Azalea at the start of the turn most of the time. So Sink being the best reaction. Alright, and that's that for the deck. There should be a deck list in the description. Thank you, Chris, for getting that. Yeah. That is the deck list. So I guess we'll dive into the tournament. It's round one. That was on stream. And that was, again, against Chris. He was on Bravo Showstopper. And traditionally, Showstopper has been a bad matchup for Azalea. And I don't think that's the case anymore. We've gotten so many good ways of finding dominate, so much more disruption, ways of locking out defense reactions. It used to be like close on whether or not you could get there, and now it feels like you almost always are going to have enough gas to get there. It's still boarding in max amount of cards, but I don't think that they can fatigue you anymore, or at least not consistently. So I'm very happy with that matchup, and obviously as the stream went, game went well. You always get to be on the front foot because because of the defense reactions, we don't care that much about like dominated hits, and we out tempo him, and the only win condition he really has is killing you. And because fatigue just isn't really an option. Hammer isn't threatening enough. Oftentimes we're just drawing one defense reaction and just toss that in front of the hammer just to prevent some damage. And you get to use the remaining 3 cards to come in with whatever you need to. I could be wrong, but that's just been my experience post-Everfest. Is the matchup has felt really good. Round 2 was a Briar. She had a lot of Channel Mount Heroics, which I realized looking back that I kept telling people, oh yeah, she had Channel Mount Heroic on turn 0, turn 3, turn 6, but it was actually really close, and I don't think the Channel Mount Heroics are what won the game. I had really strong answers to Channel Mount Heroics in the form of, I think I went like Bolton Shot, Rain Razors into Red in the Ledger, or a buffed Bolton Shot into a Red in the Ledger on the second 2 Channel Mount Heroics. And on the first Channel Mount Heroics, she only drew 1 attack. So like they didn't end up being crazy turns because I was forcing blocks on it, which obviously is best case scenario into the Channel Mount Heroic Briar. Is when they play Channel Mount Heroic, you want to have cards available to disrupt it so that they don't get to just play the 5-card hand. And Azalea is actually reasonably well equipped to do that, just because we do have a lot of that disruption. Sadly, Red in the Ledger is the only one that actually really matters, so finding the Memorial Ground or knock for that is important. Oh yeah, but what I was going to say is what ended up actually costing that game is I had one turn where I think, come on, my computer fell asleep. Hopefully everything's recording still. Yeah. I had one turn where I got tempo, I forced like the full hand block, and then I drew back up, and it was like, I don't know, triple defense reaction and a Memorial Ground with no arsenal or something ridiculous like that. And so I don't remember exactly what it was. All I know is it was one of those, I have tempo, I draw, and I just hand tempo back because of the draw. And I think ultimately that's what ends up costing the game more so than the Channel Mount Heroics. So yeah, I do end up losing round 2. Round 3, I played against an Oldham. I sat down and he goes, oh, I'm playing Oldham. And I'm going, oh, well, this event's over. X2. It's all over now. However, he was a relatively new player. I think he said he'd been playing for about 3 months, and he had never played against Azalea before, and he didn't know how to sideboard. He took a look at his sideboard notes and couldn't find Azalea on the list. I'm like, yeah, it's probably not on the list because no one's telling you that. So he took a guess. He didn't know how the deck played. He took a guess and said that it was going to be a matchup where he needs to be the aggressor. So he took out his defense reactions, put in pummels and all that good stuff, and as a result, he was stuck with no defense reactions. And I boarded for fatigue, and he just wasn't able to block enough damage. So I did end up closing that game out. I still got reasonably close to fatigue, but just having no defense reactions makes it a lot harder to fatigue me. So yeah, that ended up just kind of being lucky from me, because I don't think that matchup is good at all. Or it's I'm not sure if it's worse than Prism. They're pretty close. They're both they're both basically losses when you sit down. But I dodged a bullet there, and did end up taking that, going 2-1. Round 4 was against a chain. My buddy Marcus, obviously we're both 2-1, and so it's a bit unfortunate. Yeah, good friend, longtime friend, one of my testing partners as well, and sitting down and going, one of us is out of the event. So it started out reasonably well. I had a couple nasty turns that locked him out a little bit, and then all of a sudden he starts falling behind on blood debt where he can't keep up with it. He loses his husk, and then it just come in like red in the ledger with dominate that he can't stop, and he's got 5 in blood debt already. I think he ended up taking about 20 damage to blood debt that game because I just kept locking him out. And that's kind of the goal against chain. But overall, yeah, I ended up getting there. That's the takeaway. I think the chain matchup is quite good. I wouldn't say it's like super favored. Chain can just do chain things, but as a whole, it's better than the other meta matchups. My next round was against Mark Johnson. You may know him as Mo Bogsley. He was on Kano. And again, another friend, and it's just kind of frustrating when you're at that X1 and every friend you play against, it's one of us is out. But yeah, very, very good Kano player. If I remember correctly, he got second place at a Battle Hardened with Kano. That was at Jersey, if I'm not mistaken. So very, very good Kano player. And I think the Kano matchup is actually not good. However, he had some clunky hands. It started out reasonably, a little bit of poke here, a little bit of poke there, back and forth, and then all of a sudden he goes for an Aether Wildfire turn, where he's short a couple resources. So it takes me down to, I think, 17-ish. No, I think he takes me to 14, and I sigil back to 17. Either way, he takes me down to 14. That was like 20 damage with that thing. But in the middle of the turn, he lessens in lavas and stacks an Aether Wildfire on top of the deck. So I'm going, okay, I'm on 14. He's got his Storm Striders still, and he has an Aether Wildfire in Arsenal going forward. So I'm like terrified the entire time. And as you know, there's only 6 blues in the deck. So I'm taking half turns where I try and keep like 2 cards in hand, because I know obviously if you play out all your cards, you just die. There's not really any way around that. So I'm always trying to like bluff how many blues I might have. I actually held a knock the death whistle in my hand for like 2 turns, just because, and I didn't want to arsenal it because I need the blue. Because we do have the 2 arcane barrier. It's really the pitch that becomes the problem. But I end up just keep coming in turn after turn until, he takes a couple damage here, takes a couple damage there from a dominate. I wanted to find a seek and destroy dominate to force the Aether Wildfire out of the arsenal, but I wasn't able to find one. I had played one early in the game and just didn't draw another. But I was like actively opting trying to find it. Because, when he searched the Aether Wildfire the next turn, he pitched to play Crucible Wildfire on his turn. So that tells me that that's all 3. Because he obviously wanted to put one in Arsenal. So if I was going to be able... So the game plan at that point was kind of slow it down and try and blow out the Arsenal with the Seek and Destroy, or put him in a position where he has to go for it when he isn't comfortable going for it. And that's what I was able to do. He was never actually able to find a good turn. Every Kano he did just wasn't what he was looking for. It was a lot of blues. So, yeah. Terrifying game, because obviously when I know there's a Wildfire in Arsenal and I'm on 14, I could be dead at any time. He just wasn't able to piece it together in time. Talking is exhausting. Next round is round 6, going in against Rodrigo, another friend. Obviously, most of the people in the area, we know each other. But he's on chain. it's funny because going into the event, obviously, I want to play against chains who don't know how to play against Azalea. And honestly, most people there don't know how to play Azalea. However, Rodrigo and I, the LGS we used to go to doesn't run events anymore. But it used to be it used to be an overlap. So we used to play like every week when I would play Azalea and he would play Chain. This was back during like Road to National season last year. And so I remember the matchup. He couldn't remember. So he's sitting down like trying to remember like is he racing me? Is he fatiguing me? And he's like, I can't remember. And then like 5 turns in, I go, can I get a count on how many cards started in your deck? And he's like, oh no, don't do this to me, Levi. No, don't fatigue me. How could you? But yeah, I ended up just having grip. He couldn't piece together good turns, and I was just threatening turn over turn, and it was just rough. And that one wasn't a very close game. I don't think. He lost his husk, and then just everything. And he couldn't clear blood debt, and running out of cards, and it was a very good game for me. But it actually worked out because he also made top 8. After that win, I ended up getting 7th seed and he got 8th seed. So luckily we both top 8'd still. Had he won, I would not have made top 8. Yeah, so that was my Swiss. I dodged all of the prisms, and the Oldhim I played against, luckily, was not aware of how to play against Azalea. So we dodged a bullet there. And again, I guess I'll reiterate that is right now Azalea has Oldhim and Prism as like really, really bad matchups. So if you're gonna play it, you have to accept the fact that you hit bad matchups, you can't do well. Like, it's just not possible. However, if you hit the good matchups and your meta, is reasonably good for Azalea, if you get lucky and hit those good matchups, you can do okay. So yeah, I guess then we'll go into top 8. I don't want to delve too much into the top 8 match right now. It was streamed again, Hometown TCG. You'll find there. You can just look them up on YouTube, or I'll see if I can find a link to the VOD. Maybe that'll get tossed in. Check the description. We'll see if I was lazy or not. And yeah, so I had the top 8 match against Nathan, and a really, really, really close game. I thought it was a really good game, so I actually am going to be putting out a video on me reviewing that game and just kind of going over different decision trees throughout the course of the game. And actually, the video's already recorded. I'm just going to release it after this. So expect it probably the day after this comes out, would be my guess. And that's like just an hour and 20 minutes of me talking through every decision point that I come across. And also trying to remember what the hidden cards were, and maybe making some of it up, just to kind of explain some decision trees. But yeah, I do end up losing that game. Like I said, super close. But yeah, overall, very happy with the top 8. Had I won that game against the Chain, my opponent would have been a Prism. So I don't feel too bad. I just don't see it. It was also specifically like a defensive Prism, which means there's basically 0 chance that I would have won that and ended up winning the event had I beaten the Chain. So I'm not too beat up about it. Yeah, when I made top 8, I saw that there were 3 Prisms in the top 8, and it's like, okay, well, I guess I will not have a shot at this. But yeah, that's that. I do plan on playing. Yeah, I'm probably going to play this on Saturday. We've got a charity event in our community. It's a ProQuest sponsored charity event. If you're in the Chicagoland area, or want to travel in. It's let me see if that one I'll try and get some information on in the description. It's being put on by one of our community members. So yeah, that should be good. I would be surprised if I top 8 it again, but I will do what I can. So I think that's about it. I'm just kind of rambling here at the end, because I know as soon as I stop recording, I'll remember something else I wanted to add. Nope, can't think of anything. Great event. Shout out, yeah, one more shout out to MinMax for putting it on. Their store doesn't hold enough people, so they went and rented a space just so that they could host 64 people. And they actually just announced that they're going to be doing a 128 cap for the Road to Nationals, and they're going to rent out a space. Their space holds like 20 people in their regular building. So they're like, we want as many people as possible to be able to get into these events. Because in the Chicagoland area, there's quite a few people, so you do get a lot of these events that fill up just based on capacity within the from the store. So they're like, we want as many people as possible to be able to play. So yeah, big shout out to them to just making it as accessible and rewarding as possible. And then obviously the hometown guys who, actually, I think it was just Josh running the stream. Hometown guy. Josh running the stream, doing commentary and interviews and all that across the day, just keeping the energy levels up at the event and bringing it to all of you. So yeah, I think that's what I got. So thanks for watching, and I'm out.